Hey guys, Jim here from DrinkABeerandPlayAGame, and I love me some horror games. So I've already shown you my NES, Super NES, Sega Genesis, PS1, and N64 collections. But I have a lot of odds and ends out there that kind of ends at the GBA era, so let's wind up with October and take a look at those games. So after looking at all these horror games, I of course have to mention the granddaddy of video game horror games with Haunted House on the Atari 2600. So this is a really cool concept for a game. Basically, you're going through a haunted house filled with ghosts and spiders and other monsters, trying to get together the pieces of a chalice that will allow you to leave. And it's easier said than done because being an Atari game, it's, tough to kind of orient yourself. You have to learn the layout of the house. And with higher difficulties, they actually make the house completely like black. And then you have to juggle between using your candle to light up the room to scare away the monsters and to be able to, well, it doesn't scare the monsters. It lets the monsters see you easier, but it also lets you see the items easier that you need to collect. So it's a cool one. I could have that completely in reverse, but I don't have a manual for it. I just have either this or my version on the Flashback 2, which I looked at years ago. Link below. But still, this is a really, really cool concept. And the ambient sound effect of you walking used to scare the hell out of my old dog. And that was like a 70-pound pit bull. So it's weirdly creepy. So yeah, if you have an Atari and you love you some horror, definitely make sure you pick this up. Alright, let's take a look at the Dreamcast quick. And first off with the classic, House of the Dead 2. So the follow-up to House of the Dead 1, it's a fantastic light gun game. Luckily you can use a regular controller with this, so yeah. You can sit there and play the classic arcade action. I don't know if it has actual gun support. I forget, I don't even think the Dreamcast had an official gun that was made for it. I could be wrong on that. But yeah, it gives arcade stick support and controller support. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, it's nice to just be able to play this. So if you're a fan of House of the Dead, this is a good way to do it. Speaking of House of the Dead 2, we got to talk about Typing of the Dead again. And this is a game that if you follow this page, you know that I haven't shut up about. I love this game. This is the best edutainment game that's ever been made. So what is it? Well, you take House of the Dead 2, and instead of shooting at enemies, you have to type. And that's how you shoot and kill enemies. So some start with simple words or just straight up letters until it goes into full-on phrases by the later levels. It's so goofy. Like, they wear backpacks with, instead of holding guns, they hold typewriters and the Dreamcast strapped to their back. It's so goofy. Like, if you didn't think House of the Dead could be goofier, they found a way to do it with this. Like, I went out specifically and bought a keyboard for my Dreamcast to play this, and I do not regret it. When my friends come over, for the times it happens these days, and we all get to drink with no kids, we like to break this out because it's just that fun and goofy. Like, this is so good. And it has a version on the computer as well. And I think House of the Dead Overkill also has a typing version on Steam. So if you can play any of these typing versions of House of the Dead, do yourself a favor, go out and do it. It's so goofy and fun. Oh, we even made a drinking game out of this back in the day, so check the links below in the description. So up to this point, I've talked about two 3, and Wanpaku Graffiti, so it's time to talk about the original Splatterhouse on the TurboGrafx 16. So this is a great port of the original game. Like, the graphics are just big and bold and gory. The music's not spectacular, but it's still pretty good. The sound effects are alright, but just the atmosphere and the level of gore. And even for, like, a version that's as heavily censored as this version is, like, it's got weird choices in it. Purple Mask. But even beyond all that, it's, like, challenging, but not super challenging. It's a game you need to learn what to do, but you don't have to depend on knowing what to do at the right time. I just think it's a really balanced and fun beat-em-up, and it doesn't get enough credit for just how fun and solid of a game it actually is. This is, like, it's not popular to say that it's your favorite one, but this is still the one out of all the Splatterhouse games that I go back to the most, especially this version, because I think the TurboGrafx controller works so much better than either the PS3 or the Xbox 360 versions when playing the original arcade. So, this next one's an oddity. I've already talked about all the Splatterhouse games to this point, that were from the 8 and 16-bit era. But there was a handheld too. An LCD handheld that Namco was putting out back in the day. And it's surprisingly good, even by LCD handheld standards. Like, the music's ripped right from the game. You fight enemies that you would have fought in the game. At the top, you have to get the Biggie Man to save Jen, and you just go through it again and again. Like, it's a shockingly good and deep little LCD handheld game. And I'm glad that I have it, and if you want to see me play through it some more and talk about it some more, links in the below to my full review. But yeah, this is not only my only horror LCD game, but a spin-off of Splatterhouse that's a game all unto itself. It's weird, but I'm so glad I had this. So next up is going to be my only horror game that I own for the Philips CDI, and that is its port of The Seventh Guest. So I think this was a DOS game when it first came out. Someone can enlighten me on that. I wonder if that plays better, because this is really cool to have. You need to have the digital video cartridge in order to play it, so it's completely FMV based. Graphically, it looks awesome. Like, I'm shocked by how good it looks and holds up. The biggest problem with this game, though, is how painfully slow it is. Like, and I'm just talking moving. So, like, the old Myst point and click kind of titles, you have to click for what you want to go to in order to move to it. But there's like a good 2-second delay between you clicking on something and you actually doing the motion. So turning yourself around to open the door that you can't open is like a waste of 15 seconds at that point. So it's just painfully slow. It's a cool idea. I just can't, because of how slow this plays, I've never been able to spend more than like a half hour with it before just turning it off. It just frustrates me, which is a shame. So please let me know below if there are any way better and smoother and faster ways to play this game. All right, so this next one I'm talking about after the fact because I actually just picked this up at a yard sale. So, the only horror game I own for the Intellivision, and that is going to be, get that in view? Maybe, maybe not. Night Stalker. So, this is a cool game, and again, I've never played it, so I don't really know what's going on. But it's like a single screen going around fighting bats and robots and spiders and stuff like that. So, it looks pretty cool. This is one that like I don't have it in television, so I don't know when I'm going to be able to play this. Unfortunately, Miko port when, but yeah, just from the clips I've seen, it looks cool. So here's some footage I pulled from MavG. So, while we're talking about Sega and the Of the Dead series, let's look at my only horror game for the Game Boy Advance with the Pinball of the Dead. Man, the Dead series had so many awesome spin-offs, and this is another great one. So yeah, even though it says THQ on there, this was actually developed by Sega, and it's really, really good. You get 3 different tables, you get lots of hidden, areas and boss fights. You get a pretty good soundtrack, and the pinball physics for, a digital pinball game are pretty darn good. Like, this is a shockingly solid pinball game, in not just in general, but especially as a spin-off of an already established franchise and on the Game Boy Advance. So, like, it seems like that could be a lot of things against it, but this just works so well. So if you love horror, if you love the Dead series, or if you love pinball games, this is definitely one you should add to your collection. And while we're talking Sega and one-offs, let's finish everything up today with Ghost House on the Master System. This is my only horror game I own for the Master System, and it's also the only one of the Sega card games that I own for the Master System. So, according to a lot of people, they think this is the best of the card games, which I'll take their word for it. A lot of people seem to like this one, and I just don't. So, it's a cool idea. You go through the house trying to kill the Draculas in there to get all the treasure to escape. Cool concept. The problem is, like, fighting Dracula is a pain in the ass in this game. Like, he just runs around, he's got kind of an erratic attack pattern, and if you beat him up, it doesn't really count. Like, you have to kill him with a stake, but, if you die or something like that, like, then you don't have your stake, or the stake only has certain uses, so if you throw it enough times and you don't kill him, then you have to go and luckily try and get another stake, and the stakes only come randomly too, at least as far as I can tell. So yeah, there's just too much random dumb luck in this one for me to really give it any more than a little bit of a playthrough every time I pop it in. A lot of people seem to like it. I'm not one of those people, so it's a cool one to have for the Master System, though. So if I was going to have only have one game be a horror game, well, I'd rather have Master of Darkness. But if I was only going to have one card game, I guess this is the best one to have. Alright guys, that will do it for this video. And that will do it for 2021 with me showing off my horror game collection. So make sure to stick around next year when I go from the PS2 and beyond. But if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, leave a comment below. Let me know some other games for these one-offs that I should really look into that aren't that expensive. And if you enjoyed it as well, check out my other lists where I've done my NES and Super NES, my Sega Genesis, my PS1 and N64, and of course all of our other game collecting videos, which includes all of Brian's horror game collection. So thanks again for joining me this year, guys. Enjoy your Halloween. Until next time, cheers.